Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Plákata Nation. And, of course, I'm joined by mi primo del Bronx. What's going on, Cuss Rod? Good to have you. Also, Baseball Writer Association's extraordinaire. All right, the youngest member. We got Jesus Ortiz. What's going on, my man?
¿Qué pasó, hermanos? How are you guys?
What's going on, Jesus?
Good.
Great to be back.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to be back talking baseball, guys, and not just talking baseball, actually watching real baseball. I was so pumped to get over to Tigers camp. I've been calling some of their games, and boy, it's just great to see the boys in action. It's awesome to see them just get ready for the season. And one thing that I've noticed, and I would love for you guys to chime in because I know you guys have been watching as well from afar. I mean, I was between the lines, and what I can see, the obvious. Is how ready these guys are. I mean, I knew this. Okay, I knew this before, right? As I was coming up, I knew that no one, again, this used to happen back in the day where players used to get to spring training to get ready for the season. That is no longer happening. These guys are game ready today. And you're like, well, you're talking about pitchers? You're talking about hitters? Everybody. They're locked in. Perfect example. Saw Kenta Maeda pitched the other day. And obviously, Kenta Maeda, as it stands right now, he is on the outside of the rotation looking in, trying to grab a spot. I mean, this man went to work in the offseason, threw more than ever before in his career. All right? And he was throwing like 3 miles per hour harder than he had been in the past. So there's a possibility that rotation actually gets an upgrade. All right? With Kenta Maeda, when you have Olsen, you have Tariq Skubal, you have Flaherty coming back. Could it be that Maeda now it's a contributor? Don't forget about Casey Mize also trying to make an impact. These guys are ready, and I think it's all across the board. I would say more ready than ever before in the history of the game.
Right.
All of them, and collectively.
Right. I mean, it's safe to say that this team won't catch people by surprise this year because I feel like they've made a mark that postseason last year and the run they went in on. You have some new additions there with Gleyber Torres, who I think is gonna, really do well for that team. AJ Hinch, in there, trying to rally the troops again to make a run. The Tigers are a very interesting team. I really do think the AL Central is open for them to make that run and possibly win it. I do feel that they will be that team at the end of the day. I just feel like there was so much momentum and there was such a great story to the point where a lot of teams were scared of facing them. So I agree, Carlos. I think this might be the start of something special happening in Detroit.
When you have the best pitcher in baseball, that helps. And what they did to the Astros last year in the wild card round, that you're like, whoa,
Lethal. It was lethal.
I was like, oh my, because you have a horse, and I think I'm excited to see Detroit. I'm excited to see AJ Hinch next week. I'll make sure to go say hi. But that Florida's been crazy this year with spring training. I do not, and I've covered my first spring training I covered was 1998. I think you guys were still in high school. But the first spring training was the Tampa Bay Devil Rays inaugural spring training. And I remember still that was a time where guys were still coming to spring training to get ready. But in all my years of covering spring training, outside of 2001 with Ricky Henderson, where he didn't realize that his contract had vested and he wanted out of the Mets, I don't remember so much drama in spring training quite like we've had this year. And I don't know if you guys remember in 2001, Ricky Henderson's was it spring? I think it's spring 2000. One of those springs, 2000 or 2001. I can't remember exactly, but Ricky's contract had vested for the next year, and he showed up to spring training because he didn't realize that it had vested. And he'd tell us one day he wanted to be gone, and then the next hour he'd tell another guy that he was happy to be there. And it was Ricky being
That was drama right there.
Rest in peace,
Ricky,
Ricky.
Ricky being Ricky, man.
Oh my
So
lord!
man, one of the
But
best ever.
that was just one episode. But like I tell you what, that Boston Red Sox camp this spring has been full of little like intrigue and drama, and a lot of the stuff that you usually see happen that's hushed is has happened for everybody to see this year. Because you've been around a long time, you played a long time, Carlos. You know that there's always drama, there's always somebody unhappy with where he's going to play somewhere in spring training, not on every team, but
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah.
But this year it's been wide open. Like Devers playing third base, according to Devers. Alex
I mean,
Cora, not so fast.
I
What's
mean, I
going
mean,
on in
Um,
Boston?
es
this
una
is
novela. Es una novela.
una novela, papá, de Univision,
Telemundo, everything.
Telemundo, mano, like, it's crazy. But I'll tell you this. You mentioned AJ Hinch. He got voted actually by Brian Kenny as the best manager in all of baseball. I thought that was awesome. I mean, and rightfully so. He's amazing. But one of the things that he does is he moves his players around. He moves everyone, right? He's not afraid to lift a player in the middle of the game for a pinch hitter. Move him out of position. One day, you may go 2 for 3, and then tomorrow you don't play because the matchup doesn't work. And he got everyone to buy in, right? In contrast, you mentioned the situation, Bregman, Devers. We have to talk about it, guys. I mean, I love both of these guys. Love them. All right. Great ball players and great dudes. But I think we can all agree that the way things have been handled in Boston, it's really not ideal and it can only create problems. And I think tact, strategy, and prudence would go a long way. And I think it almost seemed like it caught him by surprise, like the whole drama. Like you should have known that this was coming, and get ready for the questions, know what to answer, get on the same page, instead of having a melodrama, for everyone to see. I think it can only hurt their chemistry.
I
Yeah,
agree. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jose. I mean,
go ahead.
Jesus,
Go
my
ahead,
fault.
Rod.
No, I feel like with that situation, there's so much to unpack there because there's a lot of respect for Alex Cora as a manager around baseball. He's won a World Series, highly regarded in a lot of circles. Same thing for Rafael Devers, tremendous third baseman. Same thing for Alex Bregman. I feel like this is something that could have been brewing before then. Could Devers have heard whispers of, okay, Bregman's coming in, da 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 da. Could that have been something that was brewing, and maybe he felt some kind of way that they didn't approach him about, hey, Bregman's coming in on this team. I this is a funny situation because Devers is a homegrown player for the Red Sox. He's essentially their best player, right? And here we go seeing this happening where they're treating Devers publicly kind of in a weird way. And I go back to Mookie Betts and how, they traded Mookie Betts, who was another homegrown player, who was the best player on that team in quite a while. And it's crazy how this Red Sox situation, I don't know if there's something with the front office, I don't know if it's something with the players. There's some wires that are not connecting there, and they need to be careful with this because when you start treating your homegrown players in a particular way, other players that might potentially want to go there are going to be like, well, if you're treating this guy who's one of your guys and you're treating him this way, and you traded away this player who was a homegrown guy like this way, why should I go there? It's an interesting situation. And you know what, if there's anyone that could fix it, it could be Alex Cora. He could use this as some sort of motivation. But like we said, this is a novela. I am going to sit back and watch and enjoy as a Yankee fan because I love it that
Oh,
there's
you
this
love
delay
that.
up there.
I'm one of
Of
the Red Sox
course.
fans.
Oh, you know it. So, but in all actuality, I do think it's gonna figure this
Oh yeah.
itself out. There's a lot of professionals there in that team. They know what they have. They have a sneaky good lineup. That's a good lineup that people are kind of looking at and they're like, oh, they might run that. They might run it for the American League East if things fall correctly. But you know what? The drama's there. You can't ignore it. What do you think, Jesus?
I, I think they got a great player and a clubhouse leader in Alex Bregman. I think if anybody can manage this situation is Alex Bregman, because if I remember correctly, Rafael Devers is one of those players who is very proud, but he doesn't speak English, right? And he will appreciate that Alex Bregman habla español perfectamente.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. That's
So
unbelievable.
he's going to come in. Alex Bregman's a very smart guy, fully bilingual, and he will massage that situation perhaps better than Alex Cora, because as you know, players run the clubhouse. No matter how great of a manager you are, that's the player's domain. Players need to handle it. And I think early on, the way they handled this kind of put Bregman in a bad situation, because the Boston media is great and they're going to ask the right questions. And for some reason, to me, the Red Sox seemed shocked that the players were honest, because they asked Big Papi, they asked, was it Tristan Casas that they asked as
Oh,
well?
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
And you're like, holy smokes! Like it was like, I swear, it seemed like high school back in the day. Like, hey guys, who do you want playing third base? Well, we want Devers, and before you know it, and then the one answer that I think if he could have back uh, with Alex Cora was the question about that Devers made it clear, like he signed this long term contract on the condition that he was going to be the starting third baseman, and Cora could have said, "Well, we're going to talk about it, see if he'll change his mind." Whereas Cora's answer was like, it almost seemed like cliched Latino.
Yeah,
Like, well, that where's that GM now?
yeah. Dismissive.
Meaning,
Dismissive.
meaning it was dismissive. Meaning like that doesn't mean anything anymore. Well, in our culture, a deal's a deal.
Yeah,
If I sign this paper on this condition, I expect these conditions to be met. And if I'm Devers, I'm like, no, no, no. I signed this deal giving up, because he gave up a lot of money
Yeah.
to sign a long term deal. Like he took the money so that he'd have security and he wouldn't, do the Juan Soto thing. So like he gave a little bit to have that control. And I could totally understand, because we've all made deals. And if my boss tells me like this is the deal that I'm giving you, I expect you to live up to it. Whether, like the GM may have been gone, but the owners are still there.
right. And the deal was not with
Well said.
the deal was with the Red Sox.
Yep.
All right. I think Devers is in 100% has the right to defend his position. I think he was caught, you know, incredibly off guard by the question. Like you should have been prepared, and perhaps have a straightforward answer, a thoughtful answer. And so it came out off. It wasn't the right delivery, I guess, when he answered it. Bregman has been very gracious, saying, "Hey, I'll do whatever the team wants me to do." Now, of course, Bregman understands that the team is leaning towards him playing third. Um, so nothing for Bregman right there to quote unquote worry about. Let's say so far, the one defending his position is Devers, and then Cora could have been a lot more tactful in his answer when they asked him that. But at that time, you also have to give Cora some grace, because the press, you know this, Jesus, the press in Boston is very intense, and they were peppering him and coming after him, and finally he just kind of said what he had to say, or just to get him off his chest, get him off of him a little bit, says what he says. Maybe not the most thoughtful answer, and now we have a melodrama. Now this is the thing: if that chemistry is disrupted, then the team is not going to play at their best. I really believe that. So what are the risk reward here? What is the risk reward? If we leave Devers at third base, so that he is comfortable and happy. And truly, Bregman is like, I'll play wherever they play me. And he is truly understanding that Devers, this is his team, and I'm coming to a new team. Then wouldn't that serve the Red Sox more than having an unhappy Devers feeling like he was dismissed and not appreciated? I think the former is the better option. We'll see how it unravels. What I don't want is all this inside jobs and inside fighting going on. It's not going to help the Red Sox get anywhere.
And,
No,
and
yeah.
Devers and Bregman can look at Alex Rodriguez and Derek Jeter. And God bless them, Bregman and Devers are great players, but nobody's going to compare them to Derek Jeter and A-Rod, at least at this point. A-Rod came to the Yankees, and what did he do? He moved to third base, even though he was the better shortstop.
Okay. That's what I was waiting for you to say.
Yeah.
Right? Because that was true. Like if you were to look at numbers, Jesus, please clear that up. Because if you were to look at numbers, defensive numbers, wasn't Alex regarded as a better shortstop than Derek Jeter?
Absolutely. And I think everybody except for Derek Jeter would concede that point.
And guess what? No way Alex was going to challenge and move Derek Jeter out of there. He understood that having Derek Jeter as the pillar of that organization was best for the Yankees. So that's a great example. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. And I think with Bregman, I think he has learned that a lot of people in that clubhouse love Devers, because usually the smart answer when the media comes to you and says, who do you think should play third base, your new teammate or Devers? The right answer is always, hey man, that's not my decision to make. Alex Cora gets paid great money to make this decision. But no, these guys were like flat out answering, I picked Devers. Like, what are you doing? So, and that to me said more about Devers than anything else, because that showed how much his teammates love him in that clubhouse. And they weren't afraid to be like, no, man, that's his position. What are you talking about?
Because like even Bregman, like it almost seems to me like Bregman is like, hey, no. Hey, I just got here. Devers is the third baseman. Even Bregman has that.
He's not touching that. He's not touching it, man. He's like, listen, I know my role here. I'm the new guy. And, the thing with Bregman is, he signed the contract. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with Bregman either. You know what I mean? He has opt-outs. He has these things. He's trying to come in here and help the Red Sox win, but he's also trying to go in and have a good year himself. You see, there's levels to these things. And you listen, man, that's what I said, man. Maybe the media heard something. Maybe the media heard rumblings of things, and that's why they asked that question. That's what I'm saying, man. People know.
You don't have to hear rumblings. It's the smart thing to ask, because that's what the fans want to know. That's like you sign a Gold Glove third baseman, and you have a third baseman who's the anchor of your team. That's like simple journalism 101. Who the hell is going to
I can imagine Jesus freaking in the back of the room like, I want to ask the first question because I know what the first question is going to be. Because that's the question. That is the question, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking of position moves and comparing and contrasting, which really is apples to oranges. It's not apples to apples. Jose Altuve, your former Astros teammate, made it clear that he was willing to move to left field if Bregman re-signed with the Astros, so that they could keep Bregman at third, Isaac Paredes could move to second. But what people didn't realize before was that this move was already going to take place. Like, I think Altuve realized, like, it's time to move to left field. But Altuve will genuinely do what is best for the Astros organization. He reminds me of Craig Biggio. He reminds me of Jeff Bagwell, guys I covered, guys I have a great working relationship with, in that those guys truly did what was best for the Houston Astros organization. Not only is he willing to move to left field, but he's willing to acknowledge that somebody could better help the Astros at his position, at a position where he keeps being elected as the starting second baseman. The only reason Jose Altuve hasn't been the starting second baseman in the All-Star game the last 2 years is because he hasn't gone. But the fans consider him the best second baseman in the American League. Think about that. And I don't disagree with him, with the fans. I think Jose Altuve will go down as one of the greatest American League players of all time. He's already the greatest Astro of all time. But I love that, like Jeff Bagwell and Craig Biggio, the first two Astros in the Baseball Hall of Fame with the Astros logo. He has always been willing to do whatever.
Yeah.
And you could say, oh, like he gets rewarded. Yes, he gets rewarded handsomely. But if he'd have tested the market, he'd have made even more money. So he has left money on the table. Bagwell left money on the table, and Craig Biggio left money on the table so they could be Houston Astros for life. And now the dude is trying a new position.
And totally selfless, right? Which is awesome to see. I mean, when you see someone who has such a trajectory like the one that Altuve has had, so much success throughout the years, it's even hard for me to believe that he's in his 30s. Because I thought he was going to stay 20 years old his entire life. That's the type of energy he brings every single day. The adjustments he's made throughout the years. Um, he's that type of player, man. Just to say that he was my teammate is absolutely crazy to me. I remember when he first came up, and he was a legitimate, just a singles hitter at that point, and he worked so hard on his rhythm and the leg kick when he bats, and all of a sudden he's become a middle infielder with power, putting power numbers up. And it was an adjustment in his training, an adjustment in his getting ready when he loaded as a hitter, and he added that big leg kick. Almost looks like a pitcher when he's about to swing, and he just exploded with the power. So his trajectory, I'm a huge fan, right? Huge fan because I know him as a person. Huge fan because I know his work ethic, and then everything I see, he just keeps on, adding to the reasons why I love him. And this is um, another one of them. Like, hey, what do you want me to play? Left field? I got it. Let's go. It's almost as if, do I want him to be a second baseman for life? Yes. But if he's thinking that, hey, I'm going to help my ball club out, give it other opportunities for younger guys to play and make the team better, I'm going to go to left field. No ego whatsoever. I'm like, man, this guy's a superhero. This guy is a Houston Hall of Famer through and through, right? And I think we're seeing why he's beloved. This is one of the reasons why. It's his character.
100%, 100%. He's one of these guys that, Jesus said it. He's gonna be an Astro for life. That number will be retired, and this will be his era. I think when we do the all decades team of the 2010s or the 20s or whatever it is, he's gonna be the second baseman. He's gonna be the guy, and he's a guy that garners a lot of respect. And granted, there was controversy with Houston with things that happened and whatnot, but he took it on the chin. He was the guy that took it on the chin, and they ended up winning a World Series. They still are successful. They're still a team that could wind up back in the World Series for all we know, because they're still a good team. People kind of forgetting that lineup is still there, and for him to be so gracious and saying, what, let me move to left field. Maybe it'll help me extend my career more. It'll open up positions for younger guys. You got to look at that, and if you're a fan of the Astros, you got to smile that you got a guy like that on your team, a guy who's the leader, who's the captain, who everybody on the team looks at and to be like, wow, look at this guy. This guy doesn't have to do a dang thing. He could stay at second base the rest of his career, but nope, he's gonna move because he feels it's the best thing for the ball club. Hats off Jose, and he's gonna keep doing it for however long it takes. But definitely, I agree. He will be a future Hall of Famer. That number will be retired, and he will be one of the all-time greats in the eyes of many, many people.
Hey guys, and
And,
one more topic that I wanted to bring forth, Jesus, that I think is important for us to talk, especially along the same lines here of being with one team your entire career. Let's chime in on Vlad Guerrero Jr. not being able to come up with a deal with the Blue Jays and saying that, as he had already warned, it's like, look, we're going to talk until that first day of spring training. After that happens, we're not going to talk anymore because I want to focus on the season. The deal does not get done. And that's like torn apart Toronto Blue Jays fans because he is absolutely beloved over there in Toronto, rightfully so. What are your thoughts about this? Because I'm like, man, I wanted this deal to happen, and it did not.
I think he's done enough for that organization that they should have just said, okay, this is what Juan Soto made. Would you settle for like $70 million less and
Yeah.
get him here? He is that generation, man. That like he is what everybody thought Fernando Tatis was going to be. He is Ronald Acuna without the defense. I mean, outfield defense, right? Like that whole generation, Acuna, Tatis, uh, Soto, Vladimir, like they've lived up to the promise. And I don't remember a time where like you saw five young guys and you're like, oh, they're all going to live up to the promise. Like Acuna's going to the Hall of Fame if his knees hold up. Vladimir Guerrero is going to follow. It might be the first father-son Hall of Fame duo.
Wow.
He's done everything that he's been asked.
Mm-hmm.
I remember speaking to Felipe Alou, and Felipe Alou like kind of told me that Guerrero needed to take care of his body better. And I wrote it. And I tell you, like he had that one off season where he came back in bad shape and he learned from it and he has been like a stud ever since. Might already be the greatest Toronto Blue Jay ever. And that's saying something like, with the guys, they won a couple World Series. But I mean, I don't get it. I mean, like you go get Springer and you give him a big contract. How do you go from getting Springer, 4 years ago to like now, like being like, hey, we're not going to give you what you want. Like you give Vladimir Guerrero Jr. whatever he wants. He's a four-time All-Star, Gold Glover, two-time Silver Slugger.
Yeah,
Nobody would have thought that he would have been a Gold Glover if you'd have saw him at the start.
Mm-mm.
So and he's like played like 6 years. Come on, like this is a very special player. Four-time All-Star, and he should have been an All-Star his first year, but he came up a little late, and he blew it up at the home run derby.
That was
So
unbelievable, bro. I was
right?
watching that. I couldn't believe that. He was not even in the big leagues yet. He goes to the home run derby in Cleveland and goes absolutely berserk, goes off, going Plakata left and right, bro. And it was like a machine shooting bullets out to the outfield. I saw that live. It was one of the best shows I've ever seen.
I was there, and I still have a picture somewhere where I took a picture of his hands, blister. Like he put in some work getting
Yep.
those home run, and the fans don't realize like it's hard to do what he did.
What?
You're a home run hitter. You know how hard it is to just hit homer after like he put on it. He and Pete Alonso blew it up that year. That was amazing to watch.
Definitely. I gotta say, man, I got a lot to say about this. I'm glad y'all talk. I got a lot to say. I gotta get
You
it.
want him wearing that hat right there, don't you?
No.
wanna-
You know what? No. I'll be
wanna-
honest with you. I'm gonna be very objective because you know me. I'm Mr. Objective, even though I got this on. I'm very objective on this. First of all, let me just go. Let me go to the Blue Jays, and I've been saying it for a while. That team is a mess. I said it. I said this, even when they were going after they were going after Soto. I was like, I don't buy it. There's a lot going on there. There's a guy who's in that team right now who should be locked up. Instead of y'all going after Soto, lock that man up. They didn't do that. You're disrespecting this guy who you've hyped up to your fans, to the country, the entire country of Canada. You said, nah, we got the next guy. And what did y'all do? Nothing. And now you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it really, really, really bad. Because now you have to compete with the likes of Steve Cohen, who, hello, I've been saying it, that man's going to be in Queens. Vladimir Guerrero will be playing for the Mets. It's almost out there without it being out there. I that's just the way I see it. He's the fact that as the Blue Jays, you did not go to this guy and lock him up way before even got to this point, and then you waited to this, and then you give him these offers that clearly aren't as good as what they should be. You know, Jesus has made some amazing points. This guy's Mr. Blue Jay. As much as we talk about Altuve, Vladdy is Altuve, except he doesn't have the rings. But he's that guy to the Blue Jays. And you're treating him like, hey, whatever. This is a homegrown player. You take care of your homegrown guys. But they didn't do that. And now they're in a situation where they have a lot of decisions to make. They really, truly do, guys. They're going into this season where they're either going to be like, listen, we got to go all in, or do we make the tough call of moving this man to try to get something in return? Because I'm telling you, man, he's walking. He's not going back there. He is not. And there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be throwing bucks at this guy. A lot.
Like, if you think about the fact that the Blue Jays probably had one of the worst winners among the teams who tried. Some teams did not try, and I think the union has a great point. Where I'll go to address this a little bit later. But of the teams who tried, the Blue Jays had the worst luck, and it wasn't luck because they got turned down. It was almost like nobody wanted the Blue Jays' money, and they could have salvaged their. To your point, you can't flirt with Soto and then turn around and tell Vladdy that you don't have the money for him. Whatever money you were going to give to Soto, it should be right there. Like, hey, this is your Soto money. This should go to Vladimir and lock him up for life. He should be a Blue Jay for life. His poor dad didn't have the Expos to be there. There weren't no Expos to be an Expos for life. Mm-hmm. And but I think the Blue Jays are going to regret not, because once you have to compete with the other teams, and it takes a little bit of wiggle room, and it takes a little bit of, like we talked about Jose Altuve, guys who are saying, okay, I'm comfortable living in Houston, I'm comfortable living in Toronto, I will take 5 million less, I will take 10 million less, because they already have enough money that if they have the right person handling their money, their great grandchildren will never have to work if they don't want to.
Exactly. And I'll add on to that. You don't think Vladdy felt some kind of way when he's hearing these figures being thrown to Soto, and he knows the Blue Jays are negotiating with Soto? He knows what the Blue Jays offered. And you don't think Vladdy felt some kind of way? Wait a minute, you're offering this guy who has not been in this organization, who has not been the face of this franchise, you're offering him this, but you're offering me this? And Carlos, you know it, brother. You can admit it all you want. You guys talk to each other. All you players talk to each other. You don't mean to tell me that Soto hasn't talked to Vlad and said, hey, listen, what's going on with you? Are you going to be here? Maybe Vladdy said, hey, I don't know yet. That might have been a decision on why Soto said nah to the Blue Jays. What if Soto said, hey, listen, Queens is really nice right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think, and the one thing we do know is that Vladdy's not going to play for the Yankees. He has been so outspoken in the fact that he does not like the Yankees.
Yeah, but you know what though? I'm assuming that dad spoke to him. Dad spoke to him and said, he said he's open to everybody because it's good for business. You have to, you never want to shut down every team because they drive up the price. We've learned this throughout the thing. But I agree.
Well, this is the thing. I want to say this. because I love you guys chiming in and all this stuff. But when we look at what happened, what transpired, okay, so the Blue Jays go out there and they try to get Ohtani, and the money was huge, right? They competed for that, so everybody knows that. Then they go out there and they go after Soto. The money was huge. They fell short. That didn't work out, but it wasn't because they didn't try. So let's make that clear. Now, Vladdy is sitting there just watching all this. And you're thinking, what about me? I'm right here. All right. I'm right here. I just had a 160 plus OPS, 160 OPS plus. Actually, very similar to the year I had when he should have been the MVP, but they gave it to Ohtani on a last place team. And I had said, hey, I don't like this. Maybe we should come up with a new award that you can have the most outstanding player and the MVP, because of the Blue Jays actually went to the postseason on that monster season that Vladdy had. He could have been the MVP, and then maybe Ohtani the most valuable, the most outstanding player. I still think that's a good idea. I know that we have the Hank Aaron Award, but I don't think that doesn't do it. We should have a most outstanding player. Ohtani would probably win it the last 4 seasons, but at least Vladdy would have one MVP. Can you believe last year, as far as OPS plus, the numbers were the same? Like, he contributed, just as much as he did. He was as productive as he was in that big time season. Yep. And we compare that to Soto's OPS plus, and it's very similar in the trajectory. But let's talk about him being a homegrown talent, like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. being a home run talent. I don't think there's ever been that much hype ever in the history of the Blue Jays as far as bringing up a young player and then him panning out. Like, actually, like, what we promised, it happened. Like, this is a superstar. And he came from our farm system. So I'm thinking, in your lifetime as an organization, there are not that many players where you're going to be, I'm going to build around this guy. They don't come along. It's hard to sign a long-term deal. Like, if you think about it, as an organization, you want to make sure that you limit risk. So who do you give that money to? My goodness, everything said, you give it to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. That's who you give it to. So, do I believe that there was a good effort on the part of the Blue Jays? Yes. Do I believe that there was a good effort on the part from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to try to bring his price down to make it happen? Yes, but the gap was too huge. I mean, Jesus was talking about, like, hey, will I take $10 million less? Jesus, it was way bigger than that, guaranteed. The gap was just too wide. And when you look at the fact that they were going after Soto, and Soto signed for $800 million, almost, you would be like, wait a second, how much worse am I than Juan Soto? I mean, that's what the question is. How much less am I appreciated than Juan Soto? So he may say, man, not that much. I mean, come on, guys. You guys are killing me. Maybe that was what happened. But at the end of the day, it didn't. It didn't materialize. And I think the ship has sailed. Maybe All-Star break, I don't think so. But if he's absolutely killing it, don't you think that you have 3 more months to go of the season and you are killing it? You're going to be like, all right, I'll sign now.
No. No way. No way. That's done. That's done. You said it. The ship has sailed. The Blue Jays have to think about their team and their franchise going forward. I think it's wise for them to try to move him. You try to get something, because he's walking away. He's not going back there. You move him for something. And listen, if he's having a great year, better for you. That means that you can maybe get something out of it. Even though it'll be a rental, you get something for him. So, man, this situation is wild. It's wild, yo. Yeah. And you know what? And you made such a great point on that. He's their Aaron Judge. He's that guy where it's like that franchise player. Like we said, he's their Altuve. When the Red Sox had Mookie Betts, he's their Mookie Betts. Yeah. And you have to make that choice. And you know what? Now that I think about it, Jesus, I said, oh, well, you move him for something. And then I think about, well, the Red Sox moved Mookie Betts and it didn't really work out. They didn't get what they should have gotten. Maybe they're looking at it like, listen, in those situations, teams lose out. Jesus, do you think Vladdy makes it through the season as a Blue Jay, or do you think maybe there's a potential where there's a move that's going to be made?
I think there's definitely a potential I just don't think that the Blue Jays have done enough uh, to compete this year. I think it's all or nothing. I think the Yankees are going to win that division. I don't think the Red Sox have done enough to compete, to be honest. So, and did have the Orioles? The Orioles didn't do enough, but they have a. The Orioles reminded me of the Astros. The Detroit Tigers reminded me of the Astros of 2015. The problem with the Orioles is that they've not done what the Astros did, and it's that once that team was ready in 2017, they started bolstering it, right? And I think the Blue Jays might be close because there's no, like there's I don't see anybody close to the Yankees in that division as far as what the Yankees did this offseason makes them to me the favorite in the American League. They spent the Juan Soto money way better than perhaps the Mets did on the Juan Soto money.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that makes sense. I I I look at what you said with the Orioles. I think the Orioles are again very young team. They got a lot of guys coming up in that farm system. I thought they would go more for it, especially in the pitching department, and they didn't. I don't know. That was weird. I don't know why that happened. I think the Red Sox are going to be good. I think there's that lineup is good. I just we got to see how everything turns, out or whatnot. In regards back to the Blue Jays, man, it's a shame because there was a lot of potential with that lineup. Bichette, Vladdy, Calvin Biggio, you signed Springer, like there was a lot of optimism out there, and it's like smoke, it's gone, and that's wild to me, man. Like that really is for that franchise and for that fan base. It's like it was there and then it's gone, and
Yeah,
you got to wonder. Vladdy is a guy that is potential to leave this Boba far behind too. Yo, it's amazing to me how quickly things move in MLB
They
and
unravel.
how it is,
They
man. It's
unravel.
it's wild, man.
Hey, we're going to be paying close attention to how all these storylines continue to develop. I think there's a lot to be excited about. For the season, there are a lot of question marks, a lot of disappointments as well. But that's what makes a novela pretty good, right? It's all
Yeah.
these twists and turns. We'll see what happens. Guys, I think it is fitting because you understand that in Plákata Nation, we try to empower, we try to motivate, we try to inspire and equip those who listen to us to go out and get it, man, to go out and maximize their potential. That's what Plákata is all about. That's the Plákata mentality, the Plákata lifestyle. Go get it, right?
Mhm.
So the quote of the day, though, I want to slow it down a little bit because I think sometimes when we are that aggressive, sometimes we could be reckless. So the quote of the day, let's talk a little bit about this. Prudence is foresight and farsightedness. It is the ability to make immediate decisions on the basis of their longer range effects. That's John Udberg for you guys. I love this quote because of the themes that we've been talking about, the situations in the clubhouses, making sure that you preserve the chemistry, saying the right thing, the right delivery, being tactful. That is prudence. We could be extremely courageous, but if we don't have thoughtfulness behind it, it could end up hurting us. We could end up hurting ourselves. I mean, it happens every day in life, in business, in relationships, in friendships. If I am impulsive, I may say something that I'm probably gonna want to take back later on or put myself in a difficult situation. So having that wide lens focus at times is what prudence is all about. We know what we want. I want to achieve, man, but I'm going to back up and I'm going to see the effects around me before I make sudden moves, right? And I think many of the things that we've been talking about could have been, prevented or better situations if prudence was involved. I would love
amen,
to hear. would love to hear your take on this.
No, hey man, I agree that and at our esquina we amplify Latino voices and stories, and sometimes as Latinos, man, like the whole, like Mexicans say, no pelos en la boca, like en la lengua, like you're not gonna hold back. Well, sometimes we have to hold back, and sometimes it's a smart idea to just lay back and say, let me think about that. And I think but it's fun. We had a great time talking about it.
Yeah.
But if we're talking to our kids, our young friends, our sobrinos, like, hey, Prudence, kids,
Yeah. Sober-mindedness.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Okay, let me take a deep breath. Let me think about this. Now, inside, you might be fuming, like ready to explode, but then you take a step back, deep breath, think it twice. Like, let me keep silent right here. I'm not going to respond. Let me give myself 10 minutes, and maybe I'll come back and talk about it. Like all those things are skills that we all need in life.
100%.
Right?
100%, man.
Háblame,
100%. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like when your child does something wrong and you're about to just and then you look at the child and you're like, wait a minute, when I was that age, I did something like this or worse. Okay, let me pump the brakes.
Slow it down.
You gotta lower, what's the expression? Read the room. You gotta read the room a little bit.
Read the room.
And woo sigh it out and then
Yeah.
and then let it through.
I promise you, when my wife listens to this podcast, she's gonna laugh and look at me like, you're so full of it. Because it's so hard. She's the one that has to pinch me at soccer games, like, shh.
Yeah. So, hey, we're all guilty of it, right? We're all guilty of it. And and the first thing is this. That's why we are bringing it forth, because we understand that it could be very damaging.
Definitely.
All right? Be aggressive, guys. Be aggressive. Go get it. Hey, but understand that there is a lot of value in a quick pause.
Yeah. Be mindful. Be mindful. Yeah, be mindful.
Not impulsive. It doesn't mean be timid. Please. We're not timid.
Mm-hmm.
We can be mindful and thoughtful.
Yes.
There you go. Yep, absolutely.
Okay? All right. Fellas, goodness. Truly a pleasure. As always.
Definitely.
Guys, thank you so much. Everyone out there tuning in, thanks for listening. We love having you on, and we can't wait for the next episode. We're going to continue to dive deep into these topics. Thank you for joining us today, and let's go Plakata this week in everything you do, but with prudence.
Peace out, y'all. Plakata out.
Later, guys.